Welcome back. This is part 2 of our discussion on who the bride of Christ truly is. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, I encourage you to go back and watch it. In that video, we explored the verses often used to claim that believers are the bride of Christ. However, we established that the bride is, in fact, New Jerusalem, who is personified as a woman multiple times in Scripture. We also discovered that we, as believers, are the guests at the wedding, and we adorn the bride with our righteous acts, symbolized by our white wedding garments, as we partake in the marriage supper of the Lamb. Now, in today's video, we'll focus on all of the scriptures that specifically describe New Jerusalem as a personified woman. We'll also discuss how Yahuwah divorced the land of Israel and not the Israelites. This metaphorical language illustrates how Yah left Jerusalem desolate, but he promises to restore the land, which will become New Jerusalem. So we left part 1 with the scripture that specifically tells us exactly who the Lamb's wife is, which is in Revelation 21, 9-13. Please pause to read it. Before we talk about New Jerusalem, I just want to discuss first how Jerusalem is sometimes personified as a woman and referred to as the mother of the Israelites. This is an important point because the Bible often speaks in metaphorical language, which we briefly discussed in part 1. While much of the scripture is literal, there are instances where cities and lands are described as mothers and daughters, and Israel is depicted as committing fornication or adultery. These are, of course, metaphorical expressions, and they're obviously not literal actions, and understanding this will help us to interpret these passages correctly. In the Bible, Jerusalem is more than just a physical city. It holds a deep metaphorical significance, especially in its relationship with the Israelites. Jerusalem is portrayed as Israel's mother and is seen as nurturing and caring for Yah's people. However, due to the Israelites' repeated rebellion, idolatry, and unfaithfulness, terms like adultery and fornication are used, and Yah metaphorically divorces Jerusalem, leaving her desolate. But he still promises a restoration, and not just of the physical city, but of a new Jerusalem that will be the eternal home of Yah's people. This is what many of the prophets were shown, and this is what so many of them talk and prophesy about. Now, it's important to note that while Jerusalem is often referred to as Zion, in the future prophecies, New Jerusalem is also called Zion. Throughout the scripture, terms like Jerusalem, Zion, daughter of Zion are used in various ways, and knowing the context will help us to grasp their deeper meaning. Now again, while Zion can refer to a physical city, it is more often symbolized as a spiritual concept. So it's the place where Yah dwells, and it's the heart of his people. Jerusalem is also referred to as the daughter of Zion, as seen in these verses shown. So when Yah speaks about restoring Jerusalem, in many cases, he's also referring to New Jerusalem, which is the ultimate perfect fulfillment of his promises that go far beyond the earthly Jerusalem's history. And this is why, even though the name Jerusalem is used in the verses that I'm going to show you, Yah is often talking about the New Jerusalem, where he will be fully present and he will reign forever. Zion, Jerusalem, and New Jerusalem are often referred to interchangeably throughout prophecies in scripture when personifying her as a woman. So I just wanted to preface with that just so there's an understanding. Now, with all of this in mind, let's dive into the scriptures. So I'm just going to start by briefly going through a few verses that describe Jerusalem as being personified as a mother to the Israelites, and then Yah divorcing her. So we'll start in Isaiah 51. Thus says Yahuwah, where is the certificate of your mother's divorce, whom I have put away? Of which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? For your iniquities you have sold yourselves, and for your transgressions your mother has been put away. 2 Esdras 2, 2-7. Thus says Yahuwah, I brought this people out of bondage and gave them commandments through my servants the prophets, but they would not listen to them and made my counsels void. The mother who bore them says to them, Go, my children, because I am a widow and forsaken. I brought you up in gladness, but with mourning and sorrow I have lost you, because you have sinned before Yahuwah and have done what is evil in my sight. But now, what can I do for you? For I am a widow and forsaken. Go, my children, and ask for mercy from Yahuwah. Now I call upon you, Father, as a witness, in addition to the mother of the children, because they would not keep my covenant, so that you may bring confusion on them and bring their mother to ruin, so that they may have no offspring. Let them be scattered among the nations, let their names be blotted out from the earth, because they have despised my covenant. So in these passages, it shows that Yah metaphorically divorced Jerusalem, who is the mother of Israel, because of their sin. So they caused the land to be forsaken and desolate. However, the land, as part of Yah's promise, will ultimately be restored when Israel returns to faithfulness. So that's a process that we can clearly see is unfolding today. Now, until then, the land remains desolate and forsaken. The future blessing of the land and the people will be fulfilled in a new covenant, which, as I explained in my previous videos, is symbolized by the wedding supper of the Lamb. Okay, moving on to 2 Esdras 10. Now, I'm not going to read this whole chapter because it's way too long, but please read the chapter for yourself. So in this chapter, Ezra sees a vision which a woman is grieving deeply for the death of her son. She stays in the field and she refuses to return to the town or be consoled by anyone. Then in the vision, Ezra approaches her and he attempts to comfort her, but she just remains in sorrow and states that she will never return to the city. Ezra starts speaking to her and he reflects on the greater sorrow of Zion, which is Jerusalem, and its suffering. He points out that she is grieving for only one son, but Zion, Jerusalem, has lost many. Now, if you see here in verses 6 to 7, it says, You most foolish of women, do you not see our mourning and what has happened to us? For Zion, the mother of us all, is in deep grief and great distress. Then suddenly the woman's face begins to shine brightly and a loud cry erupts from her, and that causes the earth to tremble. As Ezra looks on, the woman vanishes, and instead a large city with foundations begin to appear. Ezra is terrified at this, and he calls for the angel Uriel to ask him for an explanation. And then the angel appears and reassures Ezra. He tells him that the vision is about Zion and explains the meaning of what he saw. He explains that the woman in the vision represents Zion, which in this case again is Jerusalem, mourning over her child's desolation and loss. The city being built in the vision symbolizes the future restoration and glory of Zion. Uriel reassures Ezra that despite Zion's current grief, the city will again be restored and the Most High will reveal its future glory. Then the angel encourages Ezra not to be afraid. He assures him that he will be able to witness the splendor and vastness of this heavenly city. So Ezra is grieving because of the destruction of Jerusalem, which he sees as the mother of Israel. He is upset that she has been forsaken by Yah, and he's heartbroken over the ruin. His mourning wasn't just about the physical destruction, but also the spiritual downfall of Israel, who had turned away from Yah's covenant. Ezra's sadness is all about the loss of Yah's presence and the hope for Jerusalem and Israel to be restored, which he saw that it will be restored in a beautiful city, more than he can ever imagine, which we know to be New Jerusalem, which is the heavenly city even Abraham was waiting for. Hebrews 11:8-10. By faith, Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to the place which he would receive as an inheritance, and he went out, not knowing where he was going. By faith he dwelt in the land of promise as in a foreign country, dwelling in tents with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he waited for the city which has foundations, whose builder and maker is God. So Abraham is waiting for a city, a great city with foundations, whose builder and maker is God. And Ezra had a vision of the woman turning into a great city with foundations. Galatians 4:23-26. But he who was of the bondwoman was born according to the flesh, and he of the free woman through promise, which things are symbolic. For these are the two covenants, the one from Mount Sinai, which gives birth to bondage, which is Hagar. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and corresponds to Jerusalem, which now is and is in bondage with her children. But the Jerusalem above is free, which is the mother of us all. Now Paul, being very well versed in the Old Testament scriptures, makes it clear that Jerusalem is in bondage with her children. But who are her children? That's us, the Israelites, the believers. However, he contrasts this with the Jerusalem above, which is free and the mother of us all. So this tells us that Jerusalem metaphorically has children, which is a concept that we see all throughout Scripture. She is often referred to as a mother of the Israelites. Likewise, New Jerusalem is also described as our mother, but Paul is speaking proleptically here, meaning he's referring to something that hasn't fully happened yet. We aren't New Jerusalem's children yet, because we haven't been born again from her yet, metaphorically speaking, of course. So let's take a look at the scripture that describes New Jerusalem as barren, not having any children for now. Isaiah 54, 1-17. And yes, I will go through this whole chapter because it explains so much. So verse 1, Sing, O barren, you who have not borne. Break forth into singing and cry aloud, for you have not laboured with child. For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married woman, says Yahuwah. So here it says, more the children of the desolate than the children of the married woman. This is because New Jerusalem will have more children than the earthly Jerusalem. Both Hebrews and Gentiles will both be born from her. And the next few verses confirm that he is speaking about New Jerusalem. So it says, Enlarge the place of your tent, and let them stretch out the curtains of your dwellings. Do not spare. Lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes. For you shall expand to the right and to the left, and your descendants will inherit the nations, and make the desolate cities inhabited. Do not fear, for you will not be ashamed, neither be disgraced. For you will not be put to shame, for you will not forget the shame of your youth, and you will not remember the reproach of your widowhood any more. For your Maker is your husband, Yahuwah is his name, and your Redeemer is the Holy One of Israel. He is called the God of the whole earth. So notice it says, lengthen your cords and strengthen your stakes. Isaiah also mentions this in chapter 33 when it talks about Zion having stakes that will never be removed and its cords will never be broken. Isaiah 33:20. Look upon Zion, the city of our appointed feasts. Your eyes will see Jerusalem, a quiet home, a tabernacle that will not be taken down. Not one of its stakes will ever be removed, nor will any of its cords be broken. So he says, you shall expand to the right and to the left, meaning that Zion will be enlarged. This connects with Isaiah 49, 19-21. For your waste and desolate places and the land of your destruction will now be too small for the inhabitants, and those who swallowed you up will be far away. The children you will have after you have lost the others will say again in your ears, this place is too small for me. Give me a place where I may dwell. Then you will say in your heart, who has begotten these for me, since I have lost my children and I am desolate, a captive and wandering to and fro. And who has brought these up? There I was, left alone, but these, where were they? So also this woman in Isaiah 49 is saying, who are these children? I have lost all of my children and I've been left desolate. Going back to Isaiah 54, it also says, for Yahuwah has called you like a woman forsaken and grieved in spirit, like a youthful wife when you were refused, says Yahuwah. For a mere moment I have forsaken you, but with great mercies I will gather you. With a little wrath I hid my face from you for a moment, but with everlasting kindness I will have mercy on you, says Yahuwah your Redeemer. So this woman is forsaken. Yah has forsaken her for a mere moment. Isaiah 60:14-15, this is talking to Zion again. Also the sons of those who afflicted you shall come bowing to you, and those who have despised you shall fall prostrate at the soles of your feet. And they shall call you the city of Yahuwah, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. Whereas you have been forsaken and hated, so that no one went through you, I will make you an eternal excellence, a joy of many generations. Isaiah 62, for Zion's sake I will not hold my peace, and for Jerusalem's sake I will not rest, until her righteousness goes forth as brightness, and her salvation as a lamp that burns. The Gentiles shall see your righteousness, and all the kings your glory. You shall be called by a new name, which the mouth of Yahuwah will name. So Yah will give Zion, Jerusalem, a new name. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, New Jerusalem isn't the actual name. The city will be given a new name once it descends. In Ezekiel chapter 48, the context is the millennial reign, and this is when Yah's kingdom is established and our Messiah will reign over us. This chapter describes the division of the land amongst the tribes of Israel, the priests, the common land, and also the workers. Now verse 8 specifically mentions that the sanctuary will be at the center of all of this, and this aligns with many prophecies that Yah and his sanctuary will dwell in our midst. Just take a look at these verses and then compare that to Ezekiel 48 verse 8. Now at the end of this chapter, the city is given a new name, and this corresponds with Isaiah 62. The name isn't New Jerusalem. New Jerusalem just means the new city of peace. That's what Jerusalem means, city of peace. It's just going to be a new one. The name that Yah is going to give the New Jerusalem is Yahuwah Shammah, which means Yahuwah is there. This signifies Yah's eternal presence with his people in this restored city of peace during the millennial reign. Okay, so just continuing on in Isaiah 62, because again it mentions the forsaken woman. And you shall also be a crown of glory in the hand of Yahuwah, and a royal diadem in the hand of your God. You shall no longer be termed forsaken, nor shall your land any more be termed desolate. But you shall be called Hephzibah, which means a delight, and your land Beulah, which means married. For Yahuwah delights in you, and your land shall be married. For as a young man marries a virgin, so your sons shall marry you. And as the bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so shall your God rejoice over you. Now the Greek Septuagint reads this a little differently, so I'm just going to read the Septuagint. It says, and thou shalt no more be called forsaken, and thy land shall no more be called desert, but thou shalt be called my pleasure, and thy land inhabited. For Yahuwah has taken pleasure in thee, and thy land shall be inhabited. And as a young man lives with a virgin, so shall thy sons dwell in thee. And it come to pass that as a bridegroom will rejoice over a bride, so will Yahuwah rejoice over thee. So as we can see, there are many scriptures that describe Zion, Jerusalem, or New Jerusalem as a woman forsaken and left desolate. She's lost her children due to their disobedience, And Yah promises to restore this woman, to give her a new name, and she will be celebrated, just as a bridegroom rejoices over his bride. Isaiah 49. But Zion said, Yahuwah has forsaken me, and my Lord has forgotten me. Can a woman forget her nursing child, and not have compassion on the son of her womb? Surely they may forget, yet I will not forget you. See, I have inscribed you on the palm of my hands, and your walls are continually before me. For this is like the waters of Noah to me. For as I have sworn that the waters of Noah would no longer cover the earth, so have I sworn that I would not be angry with you, nor rebuke you. For the mountains shall depart, and the hills be removed, but my kindness shall not depart from you, nor shall my covenant of peace be removed, says Yahuwah, who has mercy on you. O you afflicted one, tossed with tempest and not comforted, behold, I will lay your stones with colourful gems, and lay your foundations with sapphires. I will make your pinnacles of rubies, your gates of crystal, and all of your walls with precious stones. All of your children shall be taught by Yahuwah, and great shall be the peace of your children. So this is describing the woman that Yah is speaking to. He says, I will lay your stones with colourful gems. The foundations will be made of sapphires, and the gates will be crafted from crystal. He also says that the woman's children will be taught by Yahuwah, and great will be the peace of her children. Now in Revelation 21, we can be certain that this is referring to New Jerusalem, and we can see how these two passages are directly connected. So Revelation 21, 18 to 21, the construction of its walls was jasper, and the city was pure gold like clear glass. The foundations of the wall of the city was adorned with all kinds of precious stones. And then it lists all of the precious stones and the crystals that the wall was adorned with. I'm not going to read them out because I'm not going to be able to pronounce them. But it says the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each individual gate was of 1 pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold like transparent glass. So this just goes to show what I was saying about Zion, Jerusalem, and New Jerusalem, those terms being used interchangeably, because Isaiah 49 says, but Zion said, and then it goes on for Yah to reply to Zion and say, I'm going to adorn you with all of these crystals on your foundations. And then that's exactly what we see being spoke about in Revelation 21, which we all know 100% is talking about New Jerusalem. So the last part of Isaiah 54, now I know many people attribute these verses as if it's talking to us, the believers, but Yah is actually talking to Zion. It says, in righteousness you shall be established. You shall be far from oppression, for you shall not fear, and from terror, for it shall not come near you. Indeed, they shall surely assemble, but not because of me. Whoever assembles against you shall fall for your sake. Behold, I have created the blacksmith who blows the coals in the fire, who brings forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the spoiler to destroy. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of Yahuwah, and their righteousness is from me, says Yahuwah. This is the heritage of the servants of Yahuwah. The word heritage means possession, inheritance. So we are going to inherit the kingdom, the city of New Jerusalem. There is truly so much meat in Isaiah. It's one of my favourite books. Isaiah 49:18. Lift up your eyes, look around and see. All these gather together and come to you. As I live, says Yahuwah, you shall surely clothe yourselves with them, all as an ornament, and bind them on you as a bride does. So this is still talking to Zion, it's talking to New Jerusalem, and Yah is speaking about clothing herself with them as an ornament, as a bride does. Now who is them? That's us. The bride will be wearing us, metaphorically, as an ornament. Revelation 19:7-8. Let us be glad and rejoice and give him glory, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his wife has made herself ready. And to her, the wife, it was granted to be arrayed, to be adorned in fine linen, clean and bright, for the fine linen is the righteous acts of the saints. Do you see how these verses connect? As mentioned in part 1, we array the bride with our wedding garments that are clean and bright. So at the beginning of Isaiah 54, Isaiah describes New Jerusalem or Zion as barren. So that was at the time when Isaiah wrote that. However, now, New Jerusalem is no longer barren. She has given birth to one child so far. Isaiah 66. Before she was in labor, she gave birth. Before her pain came, she delivered one male child. Who has heard such a thing? And who has seen such things? So Zion delivered a male child before her labor pains came. Now who was that male child? It was our Messiah, Yahusha. He is currently the only one that has been born again into his resurrected body. Revelation 12:5. She bore a male child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and his throne. Revelation 12, that woman is Zion. It's not Israel, it's Zion. Shall the earth be made to give birth in one day, or shall a nation be born at once? For as soon as Zion was in labor, she gave birth to her children. So as soon as Zion goes into labor, she will give birth to all of her children at once, to a whole nation at once. That's us. That's when we are literally born again into our new bodies at the resurrection. It will all happen at once. Shall I bring to the time of birth and not cause delivery, says Yahuwah? Shall I who cause delivery shut up the womb, says your God? Rejoice with Jerusalem and be glad with her, all you who love her. Rejoice with her, all you who mourn for her, that you may feed and be satisfied with the consolation of her bosom, that you may drink deeply and be delighted with the abundance of her glory. So this is personifying again Zion as a nursing mother, and we will be satisfied with the consolation of her bosom, that we may drink and be delighted. So this phrase is invoking the imagery of a mother nursing and nourishing her child, her children. We are her children. Throughout scripture, Zion is depicted as barren, then in labor, then giving birth to a male child, being married and nursing her children. These are all powerful metaphors, and it's full of rich imagery representing spiritual truths and the unfolding of Yah's promises. Now the last scripture I'm just going to read is Hosea 2. I'm not going to read the full chapter, but please read it in full for yourself. So I'll read Hosea 2, 2-4. Bring charges against your mother, bring charges, for she is not my wife, nor am I her husband. Let her put away her harlotries from my sight, and her adulteries from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked and expose her, as in the day she was born, and make her a wilderness, and set her like a dry land, and slay her with thirst. I will not have mercy on her children, for they are the children of harlotry. So as we know, this is talking to Jerusalem, the mother of the Israelites, which Isaiah 54 describes will be enlarged as the ultimate fulfillment of Yah's kingdom. Hosea 2, 14-21. Therefore, behold, I will allure her, I will bring her into the wilderness and speak comfort to her. I will give her her vineyards from there, and the valley of Acre as a door of hope. She shall sing there, as in the days of her youth, as in the days when she came up from the land of Egypt. So Yah will bring her, this woman, into the wilderness and comfort her. I personally believe this is linked to the Revelation 12, the woman in the wilderness. which I talk about the women in the wilderness in full in my previous video. And it shall be in that day, says Yahuwah, that you will call me husband and no longer call me my master. For I will take from her mouth the names of all the Baals, and they shall be remembered by their name no more. And in that day I will make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, with the birds of the air, and the creeping things of the ground. Bow and sword of battle I will shatter from the earth, to make them lie down safely. So this is clearly talking about the millennial reign, where there's going to be no war, it's going to be complete peace. So this is Yah saying that she, this woman, will no longer call him Lord or Baal, but instead will call him Ishi, husband, which signifies a deeper, more personal relationship. So this now moves beyond the concept of dominion or lordship to more of an intimate connection. The New Jerusalem will no longer have the name of Baal in her mouth, and her children will no longer cause her to be desolate or forsaken, as the Israelites did to Jerusalem. I will betroth you to me forever. Yes, I will betroth you to me in righteousness and justice, in loving kindness and mercy. I will betroth you to me in faithfulness, and you shall know Yahuwah. It shall come to pass in that day that I will answer, says Yahuwah. I will answer the heavens, and they shall answer the earth. The earth shall answer with grain, with new wine, and with oil. They shall answer Jezreel. Then I will sow her for myself in the earth, and I will have mercy on her who had not obtained mercy. Then I will say to those who are not my people, you are my people, and they will say, you are my God. So this is amazing. Yah's promises are truly amazing. So what we've explored today helps us to see the depth of the imagery surrounding New Jerusalem as the bride of Christ. It's clear from scripture that this city, who is personified as a woman, will be the fulfillment of Yah's promise, a restored, glorious, eternal dwelling place for Yah and his people. From her desolation to her ultimate restoration, we've witnessed how New Jerusalem reflects the heart of Yah's covenant with his people, and he has promised to remove all shame and sorrow and replace it with peace and joy. As believers, we are invited to participate in the wedding feast, and we will adorn the bride with our righteous acts, which is symbolized by the fine white linen that we wear. While New Jerusalem is not yet fully realized, we can take comfort in knowing that through the resurrection and fulfillment of Yah's promises, we will one day dwell in that kingdom forever.